Hi, I'm Ricky Folse, the tree messiah from the Cajun Bayou, coming to you with another episode of Loving Live Oaks. Board certified ISA arborist, multiple qualifications, plant healthcare technician, CTSP, TREC, PPQ under Dr. Ed Gilman. I've been in the tree business since '09 and I love live oaks. I have a passion for them, they're my specialty. And I've been going to school around the country, learning the science, the chemistry, the physics and everything else into keeping these trees healthy, structurally sound and safe for my customers, but as well as the health of the trees. As you can see, I'm down in Houma, Louisiana this morning next to this beautiful live oak tree that's well over 150, 200 plus years old. What we were focusing on this gentleman is actually a veteran that we're doing the work for. He wanted me to come out and do the best I could to keep his trees healthy. Now, these trees really didn't have any signs of stress or anything. We're basically just wanting to reassure their health. So what we did, they had a bunch of stuff piled against the trunk here, and we never want that. Dirt or mulch or anything like that. You always want these buttress roots showing. We don't want any buildup here, and that's common practice from landscapers. They put a bunch of mulch here, causing a mulch volcano, and that holds moisture on these roots, which can lead them to getting softer and allowing nematodes, wood-boring insects, parasites, and wood decaying fungi to penetrate through that protective tissue and get into the tree. So we did something called airspading. It's a tool that's hooked to a compressor that blows Mach 1 air out. So you can remove the dirt and sand and all that other stuff without hurting the root. So we airspaded it. We wanted to do an inspection to make sure everything looks healthy. The roots do look healthy. However, we did come across one root here and one root here that we want to cut, because that's what you call a girdling root. Later, as the tree continues to grow, these roots end up becoming like a tourniquet, cutting the circulation off the tree itself, the cambium layer, where the nutrients pass through the tree. So once again, we airspaded it. We got all the rocks and other material away from the root flare so we can inspect it. Now we also took the airspade and we would put it in the ground, and it breaks up the soil along the drip edge. We came back with our tree gumbo mixture that we mix in our tank with different mycorrhizae, millions of microscopic organisms, fungi, bacteria, biochar, which is a carbon. We mix all that together in a big tank, my big injector, as I said, my tree gumbo, and we injected it into the soil here out to a certain area, which we're going to be coming back with fresh organic wood chips, arborist chips. We do not use the stuff from like Lowe's or anything that comes in a bag. The stuff we use comes straight from the chipper, from the power company, and it has different sized twigs and leaves and all that stuff that normally falls in a forest and remains there and decomposes and becomes basically God's fertilizer for the trees. People tend to rake away all the leaf litter and debris, sticks and stuff that fall from the tree because they want turf and grass under their tree, which is not the best thing for a tree, especially a live oak. When they rake away leaf litter, they're taking away all the food and stuff like that. So all these leaves, if they're left under the tree, they'll break down and feed the tree everything it needs. Also, with compacted soil over the years, the soil will get compacted, especially if people's walking under it, vehicles are being parked. Just the drops from the dew from the branches can also compact the soil over years. And it almost becomes like a fuel filter. If a fuel filter is clogged, no fuel can get to the engine. Well, when the soil gets too compacted, all the pore spaces close and the nutrients and even the water can't get through the way it needs to for the tree to get to those fine feeder roots for the tree to do what it has to do with it. So we're going to put 6 inches of organic wood chips. As it compacts over the next few months, it's going to get down to about 4 inches. Then we'll come back yearly and add more chips to keep it between 4 and 6 inches. That way, as it decomposes, what we're trying to do is re-establish a natural forest floor environment. So as that stuff breaks down, it's putting all the nitrogen, the phosphorus, all the minerals and nutrients and elements that the tree needs comes from all that stuff breaking down, and you won't have to come back and fertilize it. All that nitrogen and triple 13 and stuff like that people put in the ground for their trees, they wouldn't have to do that if they would just leave God's fertilizer there, which is what falls out of the tree. But once again, as an arborist, my job is the safety of the customer with the tree, stability, the look of the yard the way the customer wants it, the budget, the health of the tree. We have to try to balance all four of those out to keep the customer safe, happy, and of course the health of the tree. If it was up to me, the health of the tree would always be first when it's a live oak, but that's not realistic in, urban environments. So we're going to walk over to a couple other trees, and I also want to show you all the texture of the wood chips that we're using to show it's not like the bag stuff that you would get at the local hardware store or landscaping. A lot of that stuff is ground up pallets or just hardwood from the logs they grind it up, and it doesn't quite have the nutrients of the stuff that we get straight from the chipper. All those leaves and smaller twigs that they grind up has all the chloroplast and all that stuff in it that when it breaks down, it feeds the tree. So yeah, we're going to walk over and speak of, I want to point some other things out, but we're going to come all the way out, basically a big circle around this tree, staying about right here with the chips so they're not up against the trunk. We will not do a mulch volcano. Then this tree right here will be good. We're excited to see how it's going to be looking in about 6 months. This is another tree on the property, which is probably the prize tree of this location. In fact, it's probably this entire neighborhood, which is an older neighborhood here in Houma, Louisiana, that has a lot of live oaks. But this one, probably one of the bigger, oldest ones in the parish, probably within the top 20. She's very beautiful. She's healthy. Now, with this tree being, I'm sure, over 200 years old, of course, we know that the tree was here before the house and the landscaping and stuff like that. Normally, we don't recommend planting all kind of stuff under a live oak and adding all these plants and these bricks and stuff. But we don't know how many years that could have been done. And it's not stressing the tree. She looks good. She has no dieback or anything like that. So what we did, we took our probe and we went a little bit extra on it, about 5 inches, to inject all of our tree gumbo into the soil here. We wanted to go a little lower than the rest of them because we don't want the landscaping, the plants, the flowers and other stuff, the monkey grass to feed on the stuff that we're injecting. We wanted to make sure we got it down into those fine feeder roots of the tree. So we went a little deeper and we injected the entire area that had soil. Now they had landscape and mulch here before, and we're gonna come back with our wood chips here and put it around. This gentleman has a big event coming up, so we're trying to get the property looking great for him. But he is a big lover of his oaks here, and he trusted me to do the right thing with them. And some people don't allow that. They'd rather have their turf and their grass under here, and I'm just, what I say is, what do you prefer more, your grass or your 300-year-old tree? And this gentleman here definitely loves his tree more than his grass. So we're going to put the wood chips here, but he's giving me full run of the mill and going with health of the tree first. So we also air spaded around this location. The good thing about the air spade, rather than using a rake or a shovel to get that built up soil or that mulch away from the root flare, is that the air spade does not hurt any of the roots. It doesn't nick anything, and it allows us to get a good inspection. So once again, we're going to come about 8 inches off the trunk of that tree with our organic wood chips. And as it breaks down, in a year from now, you can come right now. If I take this dirt here and I smell it, basically just smells like regular dirt. And a year from now, when I come back, when I move all these wood chips and I smell the dirt underneath the organic chips, it's almost going to smell like if you go fishing and you get some worms and you open the lid and it has that really earth dense organic smell. That's what this soil will smell like in a year once all that stuff starts decomposing. And of course, the microbes and the bacteria and the fungi that we injected with our tree gumbo is going to help eat all that stuff and break it down. There's actually enough nitrogen in the ground from leaf litter and stuff when you don't take the stuff away. Also, there's something called atmospheric nitrogen. When lightning strikes, it cracks, and atmospheric nitrogen falls to the ground. The issue with it is it's not in a soluble form for the tree to be able to take up. So these organic organisms eat it and they secrete it into a form that the tree can actually take up. So if people would just leave the trees alone and leave the stuff underneath them, they probably wouldn't have as much of a bill with fertilizer and stuff like that. But, you know, I'll go with veteran tree care, and me as, you know, soon I'll be tested for my board certified master arborist. And as a soon to be master arborist, I'm all about bringing a tree back into almost like it would be in the forest and protecting these old live oaks. Like I said in my previous videos, I love them. I have a passion for them, and I have been going to schools all over the United States, studying under several different PhDs, some for soil. Dr. Malcolm Gidry is one of the gentlemen that I study under, and he took care of the trees at LSU for 30 years. And one thing consistent at all the seminars and conferences I've been to is a lot of people have different opinions on some things, but they all say organic wood chips to the drip edge is the best thing for the trees. Another good thing that our organic wood chips are good for is a lot of the surface roots, people, when they cut the grass, they often hit them like this. And what happens is it takes away that protective layer on those roots. Once again, it's almost the same as if you get a cut. If you don't get it stitched up and cleaned up, we get infected. Well, leaving an open wound like this, the tree can get infested. Once again, different wood decaying fungi, woodboard insects get into that. The trees, if they have good vigor, which is basically the immune system of a tree, is vigor. If it has good vigor, it'll start to try to close up. This part of the tree closes pretty well, unless somebody comes back with the lawnmower and hits it again. So the organic wood chips, we will put over it, next to it, where you don't have to cut the grass here anymore. So that protects all those surface roots around the base of the tree. So we always try to, at minimum, go out with the wood chips from the trunk of the tree 8 inches, at least out to where the surface roots are. If the customer is not so open about having the wood chip forest look in their front yard. So we always try to push at least far enough out to where we're covering all those surface roots to protect the tree. Like I said, if I could, I would always put the health of the tree before the looks of the property, but not all homeowners will allow that. So we have to find that balance, and that's part of being a master arborist. And I'm already, you know, ISA certified. I have a plant healthcare technician with TCIA, PPQ under Dr. Ed Gilman, and TREC. So with all those different certifications I've learned, we have to keep the customer happy, because at the end of the day, they're paying the bill. As we speak about planting things under an oak tree, a lot of people down here on the bayou like to plant cast irons and other things around the base of the oak tree. They think that it looks great. Well, looks are one thing, but the health of the tree is another. So these are not detrimental to the health of the tree, but by planting them here, I've seen cases, as we're going to do airspading around this next tree, and show what happens after someone plants these cast irons and they're removed. You can see a pattern where the roots start to girdle and stay close to the trunk of the tree, the base of the tree, instead of going as far out as they should. We definitely think that's got a lot to do with having a cast iron here, because the roots want to be lazy and not go as far out. So we want to try to stay away from planting stuff like this underneath the base of an oak tree. We just know that any vegetation under an oak tree does compete for nutrients. Another thing with turf and trees, ISA actually has a pamphlet that I give to my customers explaining why it's not the best thing for the tree. And one thing, let's say you have a long time with no rain, not a drought, but you know, no rain for a while, with a morning dew to mist, as it falls down, the grass will take all that moisture before it can get to the tree. Also, a lot of the nutrients fall, the grass will get it, and basically the tree gets the leftovers. So I always am going to put the live oak first, because I love them. We just have to, you know, sometimes find a balance between what the customer wants and the health of the tree, as I always speak. But we're going to airspade this next tree. Then I'm going to cut away all the girdling roots and clean it up really well. And we're going to put some wood chips around it and show the final picture of that. As we're talking about the organic mulch that we're using and the differences between the textures and stuff, this here is the fresh arborist wood chips. This is what comes out of the chipper with the power company. So this is all your smaller sticks. There's hardwood in there. There's, you know, branches that are less than 4 inches in diameter are mostly sapwood. Your bigger branches are mostly heartwood. So your smaller branches have most of your nutrients in it, chloroplast and all that good stuff. So as it is so many different sizes of particles here, you have a less chance of it getting compact. People ask me why I don't use the stuff from the grindings from the stump. This was a freshly ground oak stump. And although does have some nutrients in it, it's mostly heartwood because it's the big base. The only nutrients would be in the cambium, and it's got a lot of dirt still in it, so it's not as much different size particles or chips, so it has a better chance of compacting over time. And what we're trying to get away from is compaction. As we see here, a lot of dirt here, so it's gonna compress it and become compacted at some point. So what I'll do is I'll take the skid steer and I'll mix all of this together. I can mix this in with this stuff here, but I wouldn't want to put this directly over the tree. There is a rumor that you shouldn't use freshly shipped chips or grindings like this because of nitrogen. What I have learned from different studies and different PhDs that I've talked to about it is that when chips break down, they do pull nitrogen. They'll pull nitrogen from around the first inch of the ground. Most of the roots for these live oaks are so mature that they're between 2, 3, 6, and 8 inches down, the feeder roots. So the nitrogen that these things are pulling, this stuff is pulling to break itself down, is basically out of that top end. So it's not affecting the tree. Now, you wouldn't want to put it on tomato plants or any type of plants that the roots stay within the first inch of the tree, the soil, because yeah, it may affect the nitrogen a bit. But we also spray some 2799 fertilizer on top of the ground before we put the wood chips, and 11% of that is fast acting, water soluble. The rest of it is all slow acting that takes up to 2 years to break down and for the tree to be able to take it up. So it's not a 27% fast nitrogen. We don't use that. It may burn a tree. So the nitrogen will also be pulled from the stuff that we spray and less out of the soil. That's in our tree gumbo.